Then I would like to warmly welcome everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm also opening up the chat here on the side so that I can also see what you are writing. And if you would like to share where you are joining us from, that would be very lovely. So thank you again and warmly welcome. My name is Tamara Pataki, and I will be showing you MAXQDA today. The title of this demo session is Qualitative Data Analysis with MAXQDA. And I would like to get started by telling you a bit more about what is MAXQDA, what you can use it for, how the software is set up. And then I would like to show you around in the interface and show you how you can get started by importing your data. Afterwards, we will be talking about coding and creating your code system. That is the main way to analyze qualitative data in MAXQDA. And then we will be talking about the optional AI assistant that is also available within the software package. Then we will talk more about how you can find your coded segments and identify patterns in your coding. And finally, we will discuss visualization and reporting options. Can you give me a sign in the chat if you can see and hear everything all right? Is it working? Everybody's here. Everybody's on board.
All perfect.
Oh, good. Wonderful. Thank you so much. Then let me get started by telling you a bit more about what is MAXQDA. This is how the creator of MAXQDA, Professor Udo Kukarts, describes it. Everything began in the mid-80s, a time when we were still working with the generation of so-called giant computers. Then, in the spring of 1989, the first version of Max was released for the personal computer. We have released new and improved versions almost annually ever since. So as you can see, we are talking about the software with a long, long tradition. Actually, it is older than me. And it came a long way. So now we have AI features and we are on the forefront of methodological development. But the way how MAXQDA started was in a very traditional way by allowing you to manually assign your codes and evaluate them. I will show you what are the options that are available today and what can you use MAXQDA for. MAXQDA offers you the option to work with different type of qualitative data, for example, transcripts, documents, focus groups, images, video, literature, survey data, and social media data, and much more. So you can gather all sorts of different pieces of qualitative data. You can import it in the software so that you can build your own database, and then you have the option to categorize them with the help of the code system, assign metadata, take your notes, create comments, memos, paraphrases, and much more. MAXQDA itself doesn't prescribe you to adhere to a particular methodology or methodological tradition. Rather, it allows you to support different workflows, different methodological approaches. So whether you are working with qualitative content analysis, semantic analysis, narrative analysis, grounded theory, or mixed methods, you can use different approaches and different tools that are available within the software. So MAXQDA is not a method itself. You could think of it more as a toolbox that allows you to pick and choose what you need. And who are we? MAXQDA is created by VERBI software. We follow the motto the software is created by researchers for researchers, and we take this very seriously. So the development of MAXQDA is deeply rooted within academia and academic discussions, because we are aware that the tools that we are creating are within this realm of methodological discussions. They have to be rigorous and useful for all sorts of approaches. So there are still researchers who are working on MAXQDA. Professor Udo Kukarts, who created the software, is a professor for educational science, and now we have a wide range of people from different disciplinary backgrounds who are working on MAXQDA and ensuring that we are providing a methodologically sound background for your research. MAXQDA features are also deeply embedded in the needs of the community. We are here to listen and also scout what are the most current trends and topics that are discussed, and to involve them in the developments of our software. Besides creating MAXQDA, we also offer a wide range of networking and training opportunities. We have MAXQDA Academy that offers different training options, but also we organize talks very frequently where we invite renowned methodological experts to discuss current topics. And we also create conferences right now, virtually Max Days, that takes place 3 times in a year. I will tell you more about this at the end of our talk, where I will show you where we can connect and stay in touch. All right. So with that, I would like to now tell you more about the software itself, the MAXQDA interface. The interface itself is divided into 4 windows, so it is designed in a way that you can have an overview of your entire dataset. MAXQDA is a database program. That means that when you import your data, you create a database that is saved locally on your computer, and everything what you are analyzing is saved within this container. You could think of it as like that. So all data that is available in your project will be shown here in this first window. That is your list of documents. Everything that are available for your analysis can be found there. The second window is the document browser. This is your main working window where you can find, where you can see the piece of data what you are working on at the moment. So here, for example, an interview with our interview partner, Tan. This is where you can read, edit, and also code your data. Codes are the main way to analyze qualitative data in MAXQDA. When you create codes, they are global, so they can be assigned across your entire project to different interviews, for example, or videos, images, whatever you are working on, and they would show up here in this third window. That is your list of codes, your code system. And the fourth window is where you can find the results of your analysis. This is what we call the retrieve segments window, so where you have applied a particular code. Before we jump right into the software live and I show you how all this works, I also wanted to tell you a bit more about what it means to code. So we are talking about coding in the sense of assigning a category or a label to a particular piece of your qualitative data. And there are many definitions of coding, and there are also many approaches to coding. So MAXQDA doesn't prescribe a particular approach. It doesn't tell you how to code what. Rather, it allows you to follow different approaches. So here, just as an example, I brought a definition from Johnny Saldana's manual on coding, and he describes coding as a code in qualitative inquiry is most often a word or short phrase that symbolically assigns a summative, salient, a sense-capturing, and/or evocative attribute for a portion of language-based or visual data. So he talks about something that is that captures the essence of a particular piece of your data. So, for example, a particularly relevant section of an interview. So the aim here is to capture the content and describe the essence of your piece of qualitative data. In a lot of different approaches, in thematic analysis, qualitative content analysis, there are multiple levels of how the essence is being captured. They very often talk about codes, subcodes, categories, subcategories, and themes. And the way how these relate are different based on your based on your methodology. In MAXQDA, codes, categories, and themes are all called codes. So in your code system, you can define different levels of hierarchies, and they are all called codes, and on a technical level, they all work the same. However, you might have a different approach to how you are using them based on the based on your particular methodology or approach. This is just as a short explanation and to set the scene. And now I would like to switch over to MAXQDA so that we can take a closer look. And first, I would like to tell you more about how the interface looks like and what you can find there, and how we can get started by importing data. I will be showing everything based on an already populated data set. This is the work-life balance example project. If you download MAXQDA to try that out, just a free trial version, you will be able to have access to this data set. The idea is that you get a sandbox project where you can play around a little bit just to get a notion of what are the functionalities that are out there, so that you don't have to work with your actual data set. I will just switch back to my Zoom interface for a second. All good? Okay, so as I mentioned, you have access to this project, and you can find this by navigating to Open Project, Example Projects, and choosing the English language work-life balance data set. We also have data in a couple of other languages. If you would prefer to work with them, we have also Spanish and the Portuguese example project if you would like to try those out. But I will be sticking with the English one for this presentation. In this dataset, you can find a couple of different data types: interviews, focus groups, video interview, literature data, and a survey as well, so that you can try out how it is to work with different data types. All right, so just to tell you a bit more about setting up your dataset, as I mentioned, everything what you are planning to analyze, you have to import that first, and you can find the options to import here in this first tab, Import. These are all the dedicated import features that you can choose to import your data. You can work with text, PDFs, and tables. You can also work with transcripts. You can import transcripts that are either already created, for example, by an external service, or we also have the option to transcribe directly in MAXQDA. To do so, you can import a audio file or a video file as well. Then you select the option Transcribe with MAXQDA Transcription, and you will have this window pop up where you can select your language. We support more than 50 languages, including different dialects as well, and you can add your own vocabulary to increase the quality of the transcripts as well. I don't have enough minutes at the moment, but just to show you, this would be an option, and then you can hit transcribe. And what MAXQDA creates is a text document that is automatically linked to the audio file that you transcribed, and you can navigate both of them by clicking this time symbol. If you do so, a second window that opened here in my second screen that looks like this will show up, and it will start playing the audio for you. Let me just resize that so that we can take a better look. So whenever I am clicking a timestamp, it also navigates here in the recording, and I can choose to analyze both, so I can work on the transcript level, but on the audio as well, depending on the type of analysis what I am executing. All right. If you want to, you can also work with focus group transcripts. this option has the advantage that MAXQDA can automatically recognize the speakers, and each of these speakers will receive their own persona here that allows you to analyze them separately and also compare them. For example, who talks how often, who said what. We also have the option to work with multimedia data, images, audio, or videos. I already showed you how an example from an audio file looks like. A video would show up like this. So this also opens in a separate window. The recording starts playing here. And as you can see, this is also already coded. So you can work both on the level of the video and on the transcript as well, just as I explained for the case of the audio files. If I want to, I can also take, for example, a note directly here on my video file by clicking this memo symbol. Then a new window will show up. I can take my notes here. And this little note will show up right on the video feed. If you work with videos, if you work with images, I'm sorry, they would also open up here in our second window where we can view but also code a image. You can work with survey data as well. In the case of a survey, you have the option to import from different services, for example, an Excel spreadsheet or from an SPSS file as well. If you do so, MAXQDA will automatically split your file up and will give each of the respondents their own document. This has the advantage that you can analyze them and compare them separately. You can see the answers to the open-ended questions here as the body of the text, and all the closed answers will be recorded as variables. These are metadata in MAXQDA. So here, for example, about our respondent 1, we know that they are 42 years old and they are in a partnership, and we will see the rest of the answers that they provided in our survey as well here in the form of variables. I will show you the variable editor and what you can do with them later on as well. Meanwhile, if you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat and I will make sure to address them as we go. I will also make sure that we leave enough time at the end of the session so that we can talk about your specific questions and use cases as well. In the meantime, if you feel comfortable, feel free to drop in the chat with which type of data you are working with. I would be very interested to see that. Okay, then I think one more thing that would be interesting when it comes to data types is also to mention that you can work with literature data. There is the option to import data directly from a reference manager, for example, from Citavi, Mendeley, EndNote, or Zotero. And in this case, you can find the bibliographic data and the full text right here. So this would be how a PDF shows up. You can also code them just as you can code any type of text, and you can find the bibliographic information that was imported from your reference manager right here as well. So if you are doing a literature review, that would be a very practical feature as well. And I can see that someone is working with over 100 interviews, both individual and focus group interviews. Wonderful. I will make sure to tell you more about that. And Rachel is also writing us that she is working with arts-based ethnography. That sounds wonderful. I imagine that analyzing images would be interesting for that, but feel free to let me know, or if you have any specific questions. Thank you for sharing. It's lovely to hear from you, and thank you for being here. All right, so we have talked about the data types. If you have any questions about that, feel free to drop that in the chat. But now I would like to move on and tell you more about coding, and I will make sure that we are talking about interview focus group and image coding as well. So when you start coding, you have 3 ways to do so. You can code manually, you can code automatically based on text searches, or you can code with the help of the AI assistant. I will first show you how you can code manually. You could start by opening one of your documents here. So for example, here I have a textual document, an interview with Matteo, who is an English teacher. These are structured interviews, so they were all asked the same. Questions, and here Matteo was asked to start by describing a typical workday in his life. He starts his answer by saying that he is a self-employed English teacher. Most days he wakes up really early, has an early class, typically around 7 or 8 a.m., and then he maybe has another student on only some of the days, and then he goes on to explain his week. So if I would like to now start categorizing his answers, so start assigning my codes, I could start by highlighting a segment that is particularly interesting for me. So for example, I would like to now better understand how Matteo is structuring his day. Then I could maybe structure it by the time of the day and say, well, first I would like to note this is what he does in the morning. So I highlight this segment. Then I select, I would like to code it with a new code. And here Matteo is talking about his morning. I could name this code. I could assign a color that is interesting because MAXQDA uses it in its visualization so that we can use these codings not only as an illustration, but also an analytical tool that helps us structure our code system and to better understand coding patterns later on. So be conscious about the way how you are choosing colors. You can also assign a code memo. That could be, for example, a code definition. How are you applying this code? Why does it matter? What do you understand under the code name that is particularly relevant when you are working in a team and you would like to make sure that everybody has the same understanding of codes? And add a comment on the code system, on the coded segment. The comment is something that describes why a particular segment belongs somewhere. So it lives on the intersection of code and coded segment, while the code memo is more global. It refers to the entire code. So this would be why this is relevant, for example. I will show you in a second how that looks like. So if I hit OK, the following thing will happen. I will have this segment highlighted red, and I will have my code morning showing up here in the side. I will see my coding command showing up here. I could use this in different ways. So MAXQDA doesn't prescribe what you need to use the comment for. Typically, it is used to take notes on your coding process and on your thought process behind how you are coding. And the definition, what we have recorded, will show up here in the form of a memo right on our code system. The code system can be structured in a hierarchical way. So if I would like to indicate that morning is part of someone's typical workday, I could also assign this as a subcode by, for example, drag and dropping morning on the code typical workday. And this is how I can create a code manually right on the text. I can also create codes. I can create codes inductively by developing them directly from the text, or I can also create codes deductively by developing them here in the code system. So for example, if I know that I would like to now structure someone's typical workday based on the times of the day. I have now created morning, and I could also assume that they will be talking about their afternoon and evening as well. This is just as an example. I could create them right here if I would like to reorganize the order. New codes will be created always on the top, but I can simply reorganize them by drag and dropping them around as well. And once I have created a code, I can also assign that by, for example, highlighting a segment and drag and dropping on it. Let me see, when is he talking about his evening? It doesn't appear to be the case, or not at the first look, but that could also be something that is interesting to know, that why he talks long about his morning, he doesn't mention his evening. So I can also have empty codes if I want to. And as I mentioned, codes are global for the entire project, so you can assign them across your dataset. If I go on to the next interview and start categorizing Selim's interview, I could also apply the same codes. So for example, here he also starts out by describing his morning routine, how he wakes up, prepares the children to go to school, and takes them to kindergarten and school. I can assign that by drag and dropping. And here he also talks about his evening, as we assumed he gets up around 6 or 7 p.m. I can drag and drop both ways, so either the text on the code or also the code on the text, and they will be assigned here on the side. As you can see, you can assign multiple codes to a segment. Codes can overlap, they can intersect, and you also have tools in MAXQDA to analyze these relationships and to better understand how these codes or themes relate to each other. So that would be the easiest way to manually create codes. There are also tools in MAXQDA that allow you to make this coding process faster and easier. For example, we have buttons here to automatically create new codes, in vivo codes. In the case of in vivo codes, a segment will be coded with itself. So if I highlight something, it will take the actual text. That is particularly helpful when you are working with a very inductive approach. For example, grounded theory. We also have a so-called open coding mode that allows you to create a lot of codes in sequentially. So when I turn this open coding mode on, I don't have to right click, but this open create new code window will open up automatically. You also have the option to work with highlighters or with emoticons. So if you are not particularly sure where a particular segment, for example, belongs to, you don't want to name that, but you would like to just start by highlighting instead of creating named categories, you can highlight the segment and say, I would like to now color this yellow. I can rename this as well. So let's say here, I am unsure about this, but you can use it anyway. That is helpful for your analysis. This on a technical level, this just behaves as normal code, so you can also drag and drop that around and structure. You could have a yellow highlighter code wherever you want it to be. All right, so much about manual coding. And as I mentioned, there are multiple ways to create codes. You can also create codes automatically. There are multiple ways to do so. For example, you could code based on a text search. So Here I have a data set that people are talking about their work-life balance, how they separate their private life and professional life. I would assume that people in such a data set where they are describing their typical workday are also talking about how they are spending time with their friends, for example. If I would like to now code every instances where people are talking about their friends, I could perform a text search based coding. To do so here, I navigated to analysis, text search, and autocode. And I can search for the term friend, for example. We have a built-in synonym dictionary that allows you to add additional synonyms. For example, I could also say I'm interested in the mention of Paul or bestie. So if a person says I'm spending time with my bestie, they are also talking about their friend. This is a local feature. This does not require the use of any artificial intelligence. This is simply a string-based search. And if I run search, MAXQDA will search through all of my documents that I have selected. You can either search through the entire database or restrict the search to only selected documents. If you are working with a large data set of hundreds of documents, as Roya in the chat mentioned, then it might make sense to maybe restrict the search and only search through a particular part of that. But it goes very quickly, as you see, and um, um, you can use it very flexibly, whatever makes sense for your analysis. So you can either search through all 100 at a time or only a part of it, as you prefer. So MAXQDA now let me know that we have 127 hits in 20 documents and 7 document groups. We can navigate through all of that. And if we double click on one of these results, MAXQDA is active in the background, and it also brings us to this segment so that we can read it in context and verify, is this something what is relevant? If so, we can keep it. If not, for example, here, this is about the question. We can also exclude that. So you can verify these results, or you can just say, I accept them, and I would like to autocode all of these results now with a new code. Sorry. I select that, and then what MAXQDA will do, it will automatically create a code name for you that is titled autocode, so that you can also differentiate it from other codes that you have created manually, and you know that these are now automatically assigned segments. It will also add a code memo where it will tell you how and when the search was performed. Here it was performed in all of my documents using the search term friend, and I also included a couple of synonyms that I have selected from the list. And you have the option to select what is it what you would like to code exactly, only the search item, the sentence, or the paragraph. Most of the time it makes sense to include a bit of context before and after, but again, that depends on the units of analysis that make sense for your particular case. And if I now hit OK, MAXQDA will let me know that it has successfully coded 97 segments, a bit less than the actual hits, but that is probably because we are keeping larger context. So we are there might be that there are a couple of sentences where the term friend was mentioned twice. And if I hit OK, this code will show up here in my code system. This is now an autocode for friend. I can also rename that so that my code system looks more clean. Take away, for example, the synonyms. If I do so, they will still be kept here in the form of a code memo. All these elements, even the ones that are created by MAXQDA automatically, are always editable, so that you can also add your own notes here. You can take something away, you can add to that. So MAXQDA automatically assigns them for the sake of transparency, but that doesn't mean that you have to keep that. This is a decision that you are free to make. All right, So that would be one way to autocode. Another way would be if I don't have a particular search term in mind, instead of saying now I am looking for all of the terms where all of the instances where the term friend appears, I could also say I would like to now learn more about what are frequently mentioned words in my data set, and I could create a word cloud. So here I can see all of the most frequently mentioned words that appear here in my selected document. So for example, in my interviews in this case, we have the option to work with stop lists so that we make sure that we are only working with the most relevant terms. So if I switch off the stop list, this is how it would look like. And we also have a word type filter. So if you are interested in, for example, only nouns or only adjectives, you could also select that. If a word shows up that is interesting, that you would like to learn more about, you have multiple options. You could either autocode with that. That would bring us to the same window that we have seen before when we have performed the search. And another option, what we have, is to keep on exploring more about that by selecting the Word Explorer. While it is loading, I have seen a question in the chat, and Sam Kramer is asking us, this is quite close to Atlas TI. I wonder how is it different to Atlas, and can AI be integrated, and if so, is it even useful? Wonderful question. Thank you very much for that. So indeed, MAXQDA is also a qualitative data analysis software, just as Atlas TI, and they are very close to each other. So there are a lot of features that you will find in both of the software. You can code, you can take memos, you can evaluate coding patterns. So these are all core functionalities, visualizations that work in both of the software. I would say core differences between the two are that MAXQDA offers more mixed methods capabilities. So you have this variable level that I will show you later on in more detail. So I think for the case of Atlas, you can also group your responses so that you can do open-ended survey analysis. But for the case of MAXQDA, you can do variables and variable statistics. When it comes to AI integration, what you are asking, in MAXQDA, there is also an AI assistant that we will take a look at together as well. The AI assistant is optional, so it is not turned on by default. It can help you create MAXQDA elements by working with a large language model. So you can create summaries, you can chat, you can create codes. The question of usefulness is something that I think it depends on how you are working with the AI. Once I have shown you the features, we can discuss that in more detail. But our aim in developing MAXQDA is, of course, to provide useful features that can help you code better and to capture more data. But the idea here is also not to be faster, but to help you generate more ideas, capture more width, inspire you, and to consider multiple angles. But we can talk about that in a second after I have showed you the AI assist features. Going back to our Word Explorer that loaded in the background. So now we have selected from our word cloud the term time. And what the Word Explorer allows us is to learn more context about how this term is used. So what we can see is where in our documents it appears, where it appears in our writing, what I have written, my memos, my coding comments, my summaries, my paraphrases. It also tells us how frequent it is in our documents. So if we, for example, among our interview partners, there are Tan, Selim, and Kazumi, the ones who appear to be talking about that the most frequently. The most frequent codes with which time was coded is friends and family, or negative and positive codes, and when people are talking about their friends or free time or self-care. We can also learn about most frequent word combinations and about context words. So this is how you can use the word explorer to better understand how a term is used. And I have already shown you, as I believe, yes, that you can also autocode. If you deem this is something that is relevant, you can also autocode right from here. Wonderful. I have also just read Sen's answer to. You summarized my answer. Thank you very much. And I am glad that you learned a lot about AI. And yeah, it depends on how we are working with the AI. Absolutely. So it can be useful. It is not always useful, but I think if you are using it, on the right moment, it can be very useful. Before I turn to the AI, there was one more thing what I wanted to address is dictionary-based coding. So instead of searching for one particular term and coding it as such, there is also the way to create your own dictionaries and to autocode with them. So if you go to MaxDictio and you select the featured dictionary, you can set up categories and search items. So instead of, for example, coding daughter as daughter, you could now say I'm looking for relationships, and when people are mentioning one of the search items, I would like to have that coded as relationship. It is very helpful when you are working with very specialized data sets and you have a particular categorization in mind. And that is also something that can help you automatically code a very large data set fast in a controlled way. Dictionaries can also be defined globally, and you can also take one dictionary from project to project. So if you have one set up, you can also use them repeatedly. And the way how it works is I set up this dictionary, and if I select autocode with dictionary, MaxQDA will give me the same autocoding settings what we have seen before, and it will now create our dictionary and the categories that we defined, and each instances where one of the search items appeared are now coded with the category that we defined, in this case, relationships. And that is also without any AI, fully local. Again, just a search-based, but a more sophisticated way to search based on a dictionary. And now let me also address the questions regarding the AI. And you can find the AI options here in the AI Assist tab, and all the ways that how the AI assistant allows you to create MaxQDA elements. So as I mentioned, MaxQDA is as a software has been around for a long time. So it was also developed without AI technologies that we know today. And the way how we choose to integrate AI in the software is to have it as an optional assistant that help you create elements that you could create in the software before by hand as well, but now you can create them with the AI. And it is, however, an assistant, so you as a researcher are always in the loop, and you can decide whether or not you are accepting this element what the AI created, whether or not you are integrating that in your research and in your project. So just to explain and show you more what it means, is the first thing what the AI can do is, I'm sorry that I am clicking too fast here. So the first thing what the AI can do is to summarize documents. Document summaries can be found in these sticky notes that are called document memos in MAXQDA, and you can either create it by hand, so here the bottom one was created by me per hand, or you can create them automatically with the AI. So I could now navigate to my interview partner Kazumi. I could read the interview with her and click on the memo place here and say, here, for example, I take some notes. This interview is in a cafe. So just some general notes, what went on, what are my initial thoughts after creating the interview, anything that makes sense as contextual information for my analysis, then I could create a document summary. And I could create that by hand by just simply typing Kazumi is a mother of, and now I don't remember because I haven't just read the interview, but I believe she has a child and works part-time. So I could just read and summarize the interview on my own. Or another thing what I could do is I could also ask the AI to summarize this document for me. And here I have a couple of options. So I could say in which language the summary should be. I have the option to pick from, I think, these are 15, so we have a couple of languages here, and the input language doesn't have to be the same as the output language. I can also pick the length of the summary. Is it, do I want a short summary, a medium or a long summary? Do I want this in bullet points? And I can also add my additional instructions. So if I would like to focus on free time activities, or particular aspects here, I would say focus on her so I would like to know more about how satisfied she is with her current work-life balance. I have to tick this box so that I have understood and that the selected text will now not stay local, but rather it will be sent to a large language model. If you click this link, you can also learn more about how and where which models we are using and where they are located. We are using only models that are within the European Union, and with that we are ensuring that your data does not leave the EU and and we are GDPR compliant. When we are processing data, we are only sending the minimal amount of information. So so at no point is your entire project shared. And upon your data is processed and is returned to you, it is also immediately deleted. So your data, your interviews, for example, are not stored or are not used to train the models what we are working with. This has benefits so that we are making sure that your data doesn't stay out there and is not part of the training data for the model, but it also means that the AI is not learning from you, so it doesn't learn more about your project, your coding style. So they are not adapting to you, but they are also not keeping confidential information from your research. So this is the AI summary that was returned to me, and it is also marked as such so that I can differentiate from the summary that I have created before. Every time the AI creates an element, it is always marked as an AI element. So Kazumi expresses dissatisfaction with her current work-life balance primarily due to excessive working hours, averaging averaging 45 hours per week, sometimes reaching 50. This leads to limited time with her child and husband and almost no time for personal pursuits or friends. She feels guilty about working so much and seeing her daughter so rarely. So what we received here is a summary of what Kazumi is talking about with the focus on her satisfaction, what we defined at the beginning. And the question now is how useful this is. I think it depends on for what purpose you would like to use this summary for. If you are working with if you just would like to use this as an information to understand whether or not this is something what you would like to take a closer look at, is this relevant, is this something that even talks to the topics what I would like to address, this is very helpful. I think it is also helpful to give you a first idea of what is going on in this interview, especially if you are not the one who have who interviewed this person. It might also be that you are working in a large project where interviews were recorded in multiple languages. You might not speak all of the languages, and it would be helpful that you receive automatic summaries in a language that you can read. So there are all sorts of situations where this might come in handy. If you are the one who have performed this interview and you have just heard this information last week, it might not be that helpful for you and might be something that you have easily created yourself as well. So this is how the AI can summarize information for you. And I think what's also very interesting and would like to show you more about is how you can use the AI for coding as well. There are multiple ways to do so. One way would be to code a document by an already created code. How does it look like? I can select one of my documents, so for example, Selim, and I can select one of my codes. I will have to make sure that it also contains a code definition. So here, for example, childcare. And if I want the AI to now code what is Selim saying about childcare, I have selected him, I have selected the code childcare, and MAXQDA take into consideration my definitions, so how what I understand under childcare and how I understand childcare in the context of this research. Pay attention, MAXQDA does not learn from you, so you have to provide it all the information. You have to provide to the AI what it needs to give you the best possible result, because it is not because it is only given the minimal necessary information. So this will go into the prompt, but it doesn't know more about your research. So it doesn't know your research question at this point. It doesn't know what you are looking for. It only knows when you are providing it. So you could include your research question in the code definition as well, if you want to. And now we have our 9 coded segments, and the AI have created under the code childcare. So it didn't automatically assign these codes here, but created a new code. The idea behind that is that I can now review that separately and take a look at these coded segments, so I don't get there is no button that automatically codes everything in your code, in your project. Rather, you create codes step by step, you review coded segments, and then if you accept them, you merge them back to the original code. So the idea here is that you are always there to control the quality and to make sure that what you have coded is something that really speaks to your research. And every time the AI creates a code, it will assign this gradient color and also give you a comment why it thinks this particular segment belongs to the code. So that would be how AI coding works, by assigning an already existing codes. The other way around would be that you can also highlight the segment and ask the AI to create, to suggest new codes for this selected text. Here again, the input language doesn't need to be the same as the output language. So if you have, if you, for example, performed interviews in multiple languages, but you would like your entire code system to be English for your publication, you could keep it like that as well. Here, MAXQDA would suggest a mixture of thematic codes and interpretive codes as well. The idea behind that is, again, the AI assistant doesn't know what your coding strategy is, what your coding approach is. So you have the option to select what fits your code system, what fits your research question and your particular approach. If I say long work day, bedtime routine, and let's say cherishing moments are particularly fit topics for this analysis, then you can take them so that you can take them over to your code system. And here is what I think this is a feature that embodies what I mentioned at the beginning about we consider the AI to be an inspiration and an addition. What we found is that here very often the assistant would suggest codes that the researchers would not have typically thought about. So here you can use the AI as an additional brainstorming or sparrings partner. You might find interesting aspects that you otherwise wouldn't have thought about yourself. And if you hit OK, this will show up here in our code system. This is a very overloaded segment now because I have used it as an example one too often. This is not how a typically coded project would look like. It would probably look more like here the rest of the interview. And one more thing, what I think the AI is particularly useful when it comes to double checking your codes. So I think especially the first approach I showed at the beginning by asking the AI to assign an already existing code, you can also double check your own coding, especially if you are working with a large data set. I think concentration is not always the same. If I code in the morning, I concentrate differently than when I code in the late afternoon. I might have missed something, and then reviewing AI segments can also be helpful and see, oh wow, the AI found something that I actually missed, but now I'm reading the explanation. I understand why it have done so and why it have assigned this. But if the AI finds something that is not relevant, I could also just delete that. So if I do not agree with it, there is nothing that forces your hand so that you have to take it and incorporate it into the project. Now we talked a lot about coding, and I would like to just stop for a second and ask you if you have any questions, if there is anything else you would like to know, about coding in MAXQDA. So one question is, how do you prompt the AI before with all relevant information so it does a good job? One benefit of working with MAXQDA instead of working with a chat-based interface would be that there is already an underlying prompt. So when we are, for example, asking it to apply a code, then I don't have to write this part of the prompt. I would like now you to consider Salim's document and code it. I understand coding as, so you don't have to include that. But what you can include here is more information about how you understand the code. And I think here it is important that you have a definition, that you have an idea about what you need. So I would like to code interviewee statements. I am interested in responsibilities that are related to raising and caring for children, for example, when it comes to childcare. And what I found is also particularly helpful is to include coding examples to say these are typical examples, but what would be coded by this code. What you could also consider and try out if it makes sense to include your research question, but it also depends on how your code system is set up. But I think what is important to have a definition and some sort of examples. All right. Now I hit OK again. Okay, let's cancel this. If there are no more questions about this, then I would like to now move on and talk more about the analytical features and how you can identify patterns in your coding. So once we have an already coded data set, we can now think about how our codes relate to each other and how they appear across our data. And for that, the easiest way to find coded segments would be to work with our retrieve segments. So for example, if I would like to find out what our interview partner Matteo is telling us about their morning, we could activate our interview partner Matteo and activate our code morning. Activation is the process of filtering in MAXQDA. You can do so by clicking on this dot next to a document's name or next to a code's name, or you can also activate by right-clicking and selecting activate. And if you have filtered for a code and a document, then the results will show up here in the fourth window, that is the retrieve segments window. So Matteo says about his morning, so most days I wake up relatively early. I have an early class, typically around 7 or 8 a.m. This is interactive, so if I hit on this, the coding stripe here, the MAXQDA will navigate me and show me where this quote is located so that I can also read it in its context. There is also the option to display our code comments here on the side so that I can also see if I have commented on this coding. I can also do the same for images as well. So if I would like to now find out where in one of my images I have coded, for example, organization, I can also select it, and here I will have the part of the image show up so that I can see what is it that refers to this code organization. So MAXQDA will segment the images as well, and only this particular part of my picture will be displayed here. If I want to, I can export this information, so I can create a report on that, either on the text or the image segments, and the same goes for videos as well. You can then, if you have coded video or audio segments, you can export only this particular place of your data so that you make sure you can also segment the information. You can also create more complex retrievals. So if instead of saying I would like to see what one respondent said about one particular topic, I could also see what are everybody in Berlin telling me about their, let's say, typical workday. And then I will have these certain coded segments show up, and I can also perform more type of analysis. I can chat with these segments, create a word cloud, etc. So I have a number of different options, and I can also search based on variable values. So this is something I mentioned at the beginning. You can work with metadata in MAXQDA, and metadata can be assigned to, so variables can be assigned to, for example, my documents, my codes, or to my focus group speakers as well. So for example, about Matteo, we know that they are 25 years old, they are in a partnership, and they don't have any children. I can create document variable statistics to have a overview of my quick overview of my data set. So for example, I'm interested in this data set, how many children do my respondents have? And I can create a table or a graph that allows me to very quickly see that almost half of the people here in my data set doesn't have any children. And if I want to, there are a number of setting options here, so you can also configure this graph if you would like to use this as an image. We also have the option to adjust the information displayed here or the colors as well. And if I would like to now work with both your variables and your codes as well, then you have the option to, for example, search for segments only from a particular demographic group. So let's say I am now interested in what are those without any children are saying about their typical workday. Then I could select the option activate documents based on their document variable values. I'm interested in those without any children, and I am now interested in their typical workday. Then, as you can see, only some of the interview partner turned purple. Those are the ones without any children. And here I am able to see what are those without any children are telling me about their typical workday. You can do the same for focus group speakers as well. And you can also select focus group speakers separately. So for example, if I would like to now see what everybody in my focus group are saying about, it might not have coded. What are my codes in the focus group? Just to have a good information, so they are for sure are talking about their education. So here I can see what everybody is saying about their education. But if I would like to now only know what is Fatima saying about education, and instead of activating the entire focus group, here I can activate only Fatima so that I can see what only this one person is saying about the topic that I have selected. So this is the advantage of importing a document as a focus group so that we can analyze the respondents separately one by one as well. In the Mixed Methods tab, you can find more features that allow you to work with your variables, and we also have an additional stats module that allow you to work with to do statistical operations only based on your document variables. One more feature, but I would like to show you that I think is very helpful for a lot of projects is the cross tab, and this allows you to create groups and display coding frequencies. So if now we would like to see how often people waste on a particular property they have. So for example, the demographic information, how many children do they have? And now we would like to learn how often they are talking about, for example, their working conditions based on that. We could create a table that looks like this. We have our demographic information and our groups as columns, and we have our codes, our working conditions as rows, and we can see that those without any children talked 13 times about flexibility. That is quite surprising. I would have thought that those with more children are talking more often about that. Could be also about the distribution of the number of people without any children here in this data set, but we can learn basically how often different demographic groups are talking about a topic. And what is very helpful, that this is interactive and is also linked with our retrieve segments window. So if we select one of these numbers, we can get from the quantitative information. So there are 13 segments to the qualitative information. This is what can be read in these 13 segments, so that we can also read what exactly it is, what they are saying about this topic. There is also the option to display segments side by selecting the segment matrix. And here I can read what are those without any children, 1 child, 2 children, and 3 children are saying about the topic of flexibility. I think this is particularly helpful when it comes to the interpretation, because it also allows me to see statements from different groups side by side. We can do the same on the document level as well. So instead of comparing groups based on a particular variable, we can also, and I need to go behind my Zoom window here, we can also create visualizations when we are comparing documents, document groups, or focus group speakers. And one very helpful tool for that is the Code Matrix browser. Here we can select what our columns should be. I will stick with documents, and our rows. Let's work with our working condition codes again, and we will get and if I only select my interviews, that will be a nicer graph. So let's work with this example. We will get a table that looks like this. So we have our interview partners as columns, and we have our codes as rows. If you have subcodes, you can also aggregate them or open them up. And the bigger the node, the more frequently this topic was discussed. So the more frequently this code was assigned in the document what we are looking at. Again, this is also interactive. So if we would like to read this information, we can also do so here in the retrieve segments window. You also have the option to display nodes as values, or in the form of a heat map. And MAXQDA also allows you to export this. You can export it in different formats. You can either export the image, or if you would like to work with the data, you could also export this, for example, as an Excel spreadsheet, and do further calculations with the numbers, especially if you have a large data set. That might be interesting. And you also have the option to save them directly here in MAXQDA in the form of a worksheet. We have the tool called Question, Themes, and Theories that allows you to create sort of notebooks in the software, where you can select elements that talk to a particular either your entire research or a particular part of your research. I will show you how that looks like. You can find this tool here under the tab Analysis, Question, Themes, and Theories. And in a notebook such as this, you can give a title, a subject. So here this is about work-life balance and cognitive well-being, and my research question is, how does the separation between work and free time contribute to cognitive well-being? You have the option to collect project elements that talk to this topic. So for example, codes, segments, summary tables, or memos. Every time you add elements, you can you have this insights window. This is not populated automatically, but this is a note-taking tool that allows you to describe the elements and how they connect to your research. You can do the same for visualizations. So this is the visualization that we have created together. And I could now add a description. This table shows, and I could go and describe what this table shows and why this is relevant for my question. You can do the same for all different type of visualizations. So here is just another example. This is a profile comparison chart. You can also create concept maps in MAXQDA. This would be an example for a two-case model. What are topics that Arne and Selim have in common? What is only Selim talking about? What does only Arne talk about? You could create that for document groups or for focus group speakers as well. And at the end, you will receive a so-called integration of insights. Here you can see all your notes at once, and you could write your integration note about that, so how they all fit together. You can use this worksheet as the basis of your writing, and you also have the export option to create a report. Let me just save that here. This will be created as Microsoft Word, and I navigate there in the background so that I can show you how the Word document itself comes out. I move it to my main screen so that you can see. Here is my title, the subject, and the research question I defined. And as a table of contents, I see the different categories of elements that I have collected and my insights that I can work with as a basis of my writing. I think what this is particularly helpful for is you can send it to someone who might not have access to your MAXQDA project, along with your notes describing these are the codes I have, for example, here. These are the codes I have created. This is why they look like this. This is what I found out. These are relevant segments that, for example, the supervisor should take further look, or one of your teammates. Summary tables. What are people talking? Talk about how they mean specific topics, etc. So this is how an example for a report in MAXQDA would look like. And with that, I think I am slowly approaching the end of my time, and I would like to make sure that we have enough time to address any questions that you might have. So if you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. I am very excited to hear more about your use cases, what you are working on at the moment, your projects, and discuss how MAXQDA might be interesting for that, how it could be helpful for your analysis, or if you have any clarifying questions or simply something what you would like to learn more about. I am happy to show that. There are many more features in MAXQDA I haven't shown you, but I think for that we would need an entire day to discuss every MAXQDA feature in detail. So I'm waiting for questions in the chat. While we are waiting, I also want to show you how you can stay in touch and how you can learn more about MAXQDA. This is a link to our website. I will put that in the chat for you, where you can find more information. And the first question is, are there any courses to join where this can be done on my data in real time? There are MAXQDA courses where trainers are working you through specific MAXQDA features, and for that we have workshops and webinars. You can find that under the tab resources here on our website. We have webinars in many different languages. For example, here on the 10th of February, we will have a webinar on interview analysis. We also have one specifically about grounded theory. We also have special events where people are showcasing their research and how they have worked with MAXQDA. These are all for free that you can register and join. I am also posting a link in the chat for you. And I think what really helps you to also get hands-on experience and work on your own data would be the self-paced, the self-study course, the MAXQDA Proficient User course. And this is a self-paced video course where you can watch videos to help you set up your own project, and at the end you will also get a certificate that you are now a proficient user. So feel free to check that out as well. And another resource to learn more about MAXQDA and our community are the Max Days. That's our online conference that I also mentioned at the beginning. We will have free days in this year. The first one is coming up on the 17th of March. That is optimized for European time zones, and we will be focusing on European languages. Then we will have one Max Days Americas when we are focusing on the 15th of September. This is a bit later, so it's better for American time zones, and we will have more courses in Spanish, Portuguese, and English and French. And we will have in December one where we have more Chinese and Japanese courses, and takes place a bit earlier so that we can cater to our Asian community better. And these are free conferences where you will find a lot of spotlight sessions where we are taking a specific MAXQDA feature under loop. So for example, how you can do dictionary-based analysis, or how you can analyze literature data, something that I didn't address in this demo session in detail, or how you can work with mixed methods data sets, how you can work with survey analysis. So 6 hours full of MAXQDA content in many different languages. And if you would like to learn more in your own pace, we also have a extensive manual, video tutorials, and our own publisher where you can find textbooks and examples as well.